Have you ever read a sentence that just stops you in your tracks? One that does way more than just state a fact. It paints this incredible picture, creates a vibe, and makes you see things in a totally new light? We run into this kind of language all the time. But how does it actually work? What's the secret? All right, let's get into it.
Take this line. It's the famous opening to the novel Neuromancer. Now, the author, William Gibson, could have just said, "The sky was gray." Simple enough, right? But he didn't. Instead, he gives us this image of a dead television channel. You can just see it, that flickering, static-filled, colorless screen. In just one sentence, he's built an entire mood, an entire world. That's not just description. That's some kind of magic.
And that really brings us to the core question here. How do words pull off this incredible trick? How do they weave these rich, complex layers of meaning that go so far beyond their basic dictionary definitions? Well, it turns out this magic actually has a name, and it has a structure that, believe it or not, we can totally understand.
To do that, we have to venture beyond the literal. And this isn't about using fancy or decorative words just for the sake of it. No, this is about a whole different mode of meaning. It's a way of making connections in our brain that straightforward literal language just can't touch.
The official term for all this is figurative language. And it's pretty simple, really. It's any time we intentionally step away from the plain face value meaning of a word to create some kind of richer effect. This is the engine that drives everything from epic poetry to political speeches and even our own everyday conversations. So, to get how this works, we can start with a really old idea, one that goes all the way back to classical rhetoric. See, figurative language has two basic tools in its toolbox. We've got tropes and we've got schemes. And the difference is actually simple, but it's super powerful. Tropes change a word's core meaning. That's why they're sometimes called figures of thought. Schemes, on the other hand, are all about changing the arrangement of words, playing with sentence structure, rhythm, and sound. They're figures of speech. Now, both are cool, but for right now, we're going to focus on the real meaning changers, the tropes.
And when you're talking about changing meaning, well, there is one master tool that stands head and shoulders above the rest, the metaphor. But here's the thing, it is so much more than just a literary device you learned about in English class. It's actually a fundamental tool for how we think.
So here's what makes a metaphor so powerful. It makes a direct, bold claim. X is Y. It doesn't just say X is like Y, that would be a simile. Nope, it says they are, for all intents and purposes, the same thing. And that bold statement forces our brains to do something amazing. It creates a transfer of meaning, letting us borrow all the ideas and feelings from one concept to describe another. Let's look under the hood for a sec. Take a classic phrase like the fog of war. The tenor is the real subject we're talking about. In this case, the confusion and chaos of war. The vehicle is the image we're using to understand it, which is fog. And the ground? Well, that's the shared territory, the common link between them. That feeling of obscured vision, of disorientation. That's what makes the metaphor click.
And this is where it gets really mind-blowing. It turns out metaphor isn't just in clever phrases. Researchers Lakoff and Johnson pointed out these huge, hidden conceptual metaphors that structure our thoughts without us even knowing it. Think about how we talk about arguing. We use words like attack, defend, demolished. We're not just picking random words. We do it because deep down our brains are wired to understand the concept of an argument as a form of combat. It's baked right in.
All right, so that's the powerhouse, metaphor. But what else is in the toolbox? Well, let's meet its close cousin, metonymy. If metaphor is all about seeing one thing as another thing, metonymy is more like a handy conceptual shortcut. It works with association, not similarity. The key idea to hang on to here is proximity. Metonymy isn't about making a creative leap between two totally different things. Instead, it takes one item and uses something closely related to it, something physically or conceptually next to it, to stand in for the whole idea. It's a substitution based on a real-world connection. And I guarantee you use this all the time. When the news says, the White House announced a new policy, you don't think the building started talking, right? You know it means the presidential administration associated with that building. When a captain yells, all hands on deck, they want the whole sailor, not just their hands. It's a part standing for the whole. It's a linguistic shortcut, and our brains are amazing at it.
Okay, so let's put them side by side just to nail this down. Metaphor works by creating a bridge of similarity between two different domains, like saying crime is a disease.
Metonymy, on the other hand, works by association within the same general domain. The crown is a real object directly associated with the monarchy. So you can think of it this way. Metaphor is a creative leap, while metonymy is more of a logical link.
So we have these tools, metaphor, metonymy. They're cool, right? But so what? Why does any of this actually matter outside of an English class? Well, because the figures of speech we choose to use, consciously or not, are not neutral. They actively shape our reality.
Check out this quote from the linguist Paul Simpson. "Every figurative choice is a political act." Whoa, that really raises the stakes, doesn't it? What he's arguing is that whenever we choose one metaphor over another, we're making a choice that has real-world consequences. We are framing an issue in a very specific way.
And this is where the rubber really hits the road. Just look at how this plays out with a big social issue like crime. If our society adopts the metaphor that crime is a disease, it leads us down a specific path. We start talking about treating root causes, diagnosing social problems, and focusing on rehabilitation. But what if we use the metaphor crime is a war? Well, the entire logic flips. Suddenly we need to fight crime, defeat an enemy, and the focus shifts to policing, punishment, and combat. The metaphor we choose literally defines the solutions we can even imagine.
And that is the ultimate takeaway here. These figures of speech we live by are not just some poetic flair. They are the invisible blueprints that build our understanding of the world. They frame our problems, and in doing so, they put very real limits on the solutions we think are possible.
So that leaves us with a final question. For you, the next time you hear someone talk about wasting time or investing in a relationship or being at a crossroads in life, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, what's the hidden metaphor there? What is time being compared to? What is love? And maybe more importantly, what other metaphors could we be using instead? Because understanding this stuff, really getting it, is the first step to unlocking the power of language. Not just to describe the world, but to actually change it.